All right, what's going on, guys? Hope everybody is having a great day. Sorry about my voice. I think I'm getting sick, so bear with me if I cut in and out a bit. It's not the mic, that's my vocal cords. Um, I wanted to switch gears a bit. I know I've been covering a lot of DeFi material, but one of my favorite and actually the cryptocurrency that got me into uh, crypto in general was Ethereum. I've said on previous videos that I did attend the early 2017 DevCon 3 in Cancun, um, where I got to learn a lot about what was going on with the Ethereum ecosystem, and got to meet a lot of cool people. It was a great conference. I was planning on going to the Prague DevCon 4 this past year. I should say, I think it was in 2018, but I wasn't able to make it because of business. But Ethereum is very exciting. Obviously, a lot of the things happening on Ethereum, like DeFi, decentralized finance, is happening on Ethereum because of Ethereum's properties of being able to have programmable smart contracts, which really gives Ethereum the title of, the best programmable money. Now, there are arguments that Bitcoin itself can be programmed with second layer solutions, but Ethereum really does get it right by having it all in one layer and being able to write these smart contracts to do things like derivatives, decentralized currency through Maker, interest through Compound. There's just so many applications, and it's what really gets me the most excited about the future of cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. And finance is that being able to program money is really huge, and I really do think it's the next evolution of cryptocurrencies. I do believe that Bitcoin will always have its place. There's no doubting that Bitcoin will always have a very high value in the world and will always have a use. But I do believe, as this article kind of gets into, that Ethereum has so much going for it right now that it's kind of the sleeper that not a lot of people are talking about. So I'm going to skim through this a bit. It's a very long article, but I wanted to kind of hit some points that the author, Patrick Tan, goes into. So he goes into basically this first paragraph. He talks about a guy who's at a gambling in a casino, gets a call saying that his credit card was was used to book tickets from London, where I should say, yeah, right here, sizable transaction on his credit card for air tickets made from London. He called the bank and they said that they could reverse it, and it was pretty easy to do. And then he kind of goes into here where he talks about how that's not really how cryptos and blockchain work. One of the value propositions of the blockchain is that transactions once recorded on the blocks. One of the value propositions of the blockchain is that transactions once recorded on the blocks are immutable. There's no way to artificially reach back in time to undo any fraudulent or poorly thought out transactions. No backseas. But that immutability, while it lends certainty to transactions and contracts, can also be harsh and unforgiving. Because life is anything but straightforward, and there will always be mistakes and regrets, exigencies and exceptions, which the harsh and sometimes punishing finality of the blockchain is not equipped to handle. When one of the world's first Bitcoin exchanges, Mt. Gox, was hacked, there was never a question about reverting to a new reality where the addresses of the stolen Bitcoins was to be ignored in some alternative reality. So this is all true. There have been many cases of, there's been many cases of people that have accidentally sent crypto to the wrong address. They've accidentally burned tokens by sending them to a locked wallet. Tons of examples of this. But it is trying to, with crypto, there is a bit of responsibility on the user themselves. That isn't to say that if we got into a world of commerce where people were actually using cryptos on a day-to-day basis to purchase things that to reverse a transaction, you know, the financial institution could send back the crypto that you lost, or that somehow somebody else spent it, which is another area that's not really covered, is that crypto also really secures who can spend the crypto. But they could replace the lost crypto and then go to the vendor that was given that crypto. Since it was flagged as a invalid transaction, they could get that crypto back from the vendor. So there are ways that things can be reversed in the future. It's just going to be a little bit of a change from the system that we have now, where we have so many dollars out there that are just printed. So these credit card companies can reverse transactions without even working with the vendor, or just cutting the vendor off and reversing the transaction from the vendor itself. So there's a little more work on the vendor side, and on the payment side, but it is possible. He then goes into the Ethereum DAO hack. The DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, is a part that was something that was programmed into Ethereum, or right around 2016 for crowdfunding. Excuse me. And it was there was some code in it that actually in the smart contract part of the code that was not kosher. It wasn't. There was a bug. So basically, if I believe the guy actually just tried to withdraw Ether from the smart contract multiple times without it registering, without it trying to write it to the ledger yet, and that bug actually allowed this person to withdraw a bunch of Ether from the DAO. So the drama behind the whole DAO hack was the solution to it was a soft fork, and that's how Ethereum Classic was created. Is they basically reverted some of the funds, so that they reverted some of the code so the DAO funds could not be withdrawn. And it did cause a rift in the Ethereum development community, because people did not like the fact that they were kind of going back and changing things. But that's basically what he covers here. He kind of goes into the history of the DAO, and basically what Vitalik wanted to do here. It says a software fork has been proposed. This was the fix that Vitalik came up with no rollback, no transactions, or no blocks will be reversed. So basically saying that no blocks will be reversed, no transactions will be changed on the blockchain, but what will be done, he actually says it here, to simplify, Buterin specifically states that he isn't proposing to rewrite any blocks on the Ethereum blockchain, but just to install a switch in the basic Ethereum code that prevents moving any Ethereum out of the DAO or its children apps. Effectively, this is a one-time fix called a soft fork for a one-time event that would seal specific Ethereum in that Ethereum address for all time, making the stolen Ethereum marked and unusable. So in a way, even though transactions weren't changed, it was basically, in essence, kind of reversing the transaction because the money was moved. So then he goes into some of the developer stuff here, how they felt about it. And then he goes into, and one thing that was not covered in this article, which I actually think is something that he could have gone into, is what the whole decentralized finance movement does bring is and since Ethereum is programmable money, you can create new tools that puts checks and balances in place. So instead of using Ether as the main asset, you use something like DAI, which is pegged to the dollar, and then have smart contracts that put checks and balances on that so that things can be reversed. I honestly thought that was the direction he was going to be going in this article, because it seems like, it's one of Bitcoin's big downfalls is that you can lose Bitcoin pretty easily. Somebody takes your Bitcoin. Sure, you could track where it goes, but, you can't reverse a transaction. But, creating these layers of smart contracts on Ethereum, you can put checks and balances in place to take care of this issue and make people feel more at ease as we transition from the legacy financial model we have now into the newer crypto financial model that we are going into over the next 10 to 20 years. Then he gets into corporate cryptocurrency, which is pretty interesting. From Tel Aviv to Toronto, Seattle to South Africa, companies are experimenting with blockchain for their businesses, and many have adopted either Ethereum or their own version of a blockchain based on Ethereum. In Taipei, Foxconn, the electronics giant best known as a manufacturer of iPhones, has launched a startup based in Shanghai called Chained Finance with a Chinese peer-to-peer lender, and they will be utilizing Ethereum-based blockchain. Chained Finance will soon connect Foxconn and its many small suppliers on an Ethereum-based blockchain that will use its own token and smart contracts to make payments and provide financing in near real time, eliminating the cumbersome daisy chain of paperwork. According to Jack Lee, the founder of Foxconn's venture capital arm, which has invested $40 million in 6 blockchain startups, we view blockchain as the skeleton of our work. Smart contracts that automatically execute transactions are the muscle and tokens are the blood. Foxconn is pretty famous for trying to automate as much as possible in their workflow. They used to do a lot of things manually with the iPhone, and now they actually have a lot of it automated through robotics. So, moving more of their supply chain and their workflow into using something like blockchain, they could automate even more of it. And automation brings cheaper prices of the products that they create. So it is a good thing. And Chain Finance is not alone. It is one of an ever-growing list of companies building next-generation decentralized applications based on the Ethereum blockchain. Enterprise blockchain is that, as it has been called, has the potential to speed up business processes, increase transparency, and potentially save billions of dollars for companies, as I just mentioned. To be sure, companies are already using blockchain technology to track fresh-caught tuna from fishing hooks in the South Pacific to grocery shelves, to speed up insurance claims, and to manage medical records. Total corporate and government spending on the blockchain should hit $2.9 billion in 2019. That's in US dollars, an increase of 89% over the previous year, eventually rising to $12.4 billion US dollars by 2022. According to market research firm IDC. When PwC surveyed 600 blockchain-savvy executives last year, 84% said the companies were already involved with the technology. And many of these corporate-led blockchain projects have seemed to favor the Ethereum network as the protocol of choice upon which to build their applications atop of. And Ethereum, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, or the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, it's the EEA, they've been around for quite a bit now. I remember them forming back in 2017, 16. And, there's a bunch of big names in there, like Microsoft, one of the bigger ones that has been supporting it. Ethereum is really kind of positioning itself in a way, not just around things like decentralized finance, but, governments are talking about putting bonds on the Ethereum blockchain, loans, all sorts of stuff that, Bitcoin isn't really capable of doing because of the platform that it's on. And some of the other smart contract platforms like, EOS and Tron, and sure, they might be faster, but the developers are behind Ethereum. They've always been behind Ethereum, and they by far has the biggest developer community. So then moving into Enterprise Ethereum. Take, for instance, Anheuser-Busch InBev, the Belgian brewing giant involved in a pilot program in the San Francisco Bay Area where consumers can upload their driver's license information to an Ethereum-based blockchain, which will enable them to buy beer from vending machine by simply scanning their smartphone. That sounds nice. I'm actually from this area. So, who wouldn't want to buy beer from a vending machine? Sounds good to me. I think they'll have to get around some laws here in the Bay Area, though. In Africa, AB InBev is working in partnership with BankU to use an Ethereum-based blockchain to provide pricing and payments information to farmers who lack bank accounts, making it possible for the company to work faster and with more farmers in order to ramp up its African operations. And banking the unbanked is obviously one of the bigger applications for crypto. BBVA, Spain's second largest bank, announced its first Ethereum blockchain-based syndicated loan worth 170 million US dollars for Red Electra Corporation, Spain's electrical grid operator. And with nearly 5 trillion US dollars in loans being syndicated worldwide each year, the transparency, security, and efficiency of the blockchain could make a huge impact on the industry. So I think I hear about a French lender moving letters of credit from their current paper form to secure distributed ledger, and the world's first fully digitized letter of credit transaction, which is based on the Ethereum blockchain. So as you can see, there are quite a big, and he has more examples, example after example, healthcare, medical records, Citigroup is working off the Ethereum blockchain. Citigroup working with Barclays, Comcast, capital firm here, is invested in 7 enterprise blockchain startups. Fidelity, there's a custodial service. Not to mention, most of the stable coins are actually using Ethereum. Also, I think something like 90 of the top 100 cryptocurrencies are or were using ERC20 Ethereum tokens. So that's another piece there. I mean, Ethereum is really like the sleeping giant as far as what's being built on top of it. It is really the foundation of a lot. That's why a lot of people are calling blockchain, they're drawing parallels between blockchain and the internet, because the internet really wasn't about the internet itself. It was about what could be built on top of the internet. And that's why a lot of those parallels are being drawn there, because it's more about, what is coming and what is being built on top of it right now. Google is here too. I know that Google actually just made some news with Chainlink. And it just keeps going. Exodus 1, HTC. Microsoft has the Azure Blockchain Workbench, which I know them working with, they're part of the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. So obviously there's going to be an Ethereum tie-in there. Moving on to resilience in Ethereum. Almost wrapping it up here, guys. But the bottom line is that Ethereum, despite the legacy of the DAO hack, has shown that it can rise above the ashes of its early challenges through a combination of versatility and pragmatism. I'd like to add, like I said before, technology of the technology of the Ethereum blockchain can actually fix a lot of these issues, like I said, by creating applications that put in checks and balances. Obviously, you have to be careful when you're talking about reversing transactions, but if you're dealing with something like payments, you could have, a period of time where you can have transactions reversed. That's something that definitely can be written. While many cryptocurrency and blockchain purists may deride Ethereum as not being true to the ethos of the blockchain and what it stands for, the reality is that its early ability to demonstrate adaptability and to make pragmatic choices, as well as its flexibility as a protocol, probably contributed in no small way to its current status as the world's number 2 cryptocurrency. Speaking to Forums, Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin probably summed up this pragmatism best when he said, "I stopped viewing large corporations over the last few years as kind of a singular evil behemoths. As far as where big companies can fit in, I do think that they have a role, and I do think the smart ones that take the first step and are willing to kind of play with the technology rather than against it can survive and even benefit from the whole process." He's a very smart guy, Vitalik. So then he's talking about how some crypto people look at these big companies as the enemy. I think that's going to do it. This is very long. But yeah, I think that Ethereum, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming from Ethereum in the near future. Obviously, the scaling upgrade that's coming sometime, I think, in first step is going to be next year, 2020, maybe it was January, February, to get the scaling and the transactions per second up. Is going to be a nice big step, but I think it's doing pretty well as it is. More applications are becoming more mature, and Ethereum keeps holding up. The longer it's running without any issues, the stronger it gets. And I really don't think you're going to see it falter from the top three cryptos in the near future. If you like the video, please like it, share it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And that's all I got for today. Oh, and if you guys have any questions, please use the comments below. That's all I got for today. Thanks. Bye.